Welcome back, YouTube. My name is Nigel Schroeder, and I want to thank you all for tuning in to yet another video. Today, we're going to be talking about Navy Federal Credit Union and what you should do to avoid allowing your account to go into collections with Navy Federal Credit Union. So we're going to talk about this from a few different perspectives, and I'm just going to include them all in one. So maybe we're talking about a young entrepreneur. Maybe we're talking about someone who is new to Navy Federal and just got their first card and hasn't made any credit mistakes yet. Or maybe we're talking about someone who's already made these credit mistakes and now they're trying to get themselves out of the hole. So in this situation, we're going to talk about what can you do to avoid getting yourself into any type of collection situation with Navy Federal. So first things first, and I've been mentioning this a lot lately, but it's very important to have a budget. So budget out, know what you're going to be spending every month, know what transactions you're going to put on your card and how much money should be charged to your card. Now, for everyone, this isn't necessarily going to be the end all be all, because as we all know, we've all wrote up a budget before and then we failed to follow it. So writing a budget is just one half of the equation. The other half is actually executing. And so you need to execute on that budget. But if you're having a hard time doing that, what I'm going to recommend is you do one of these next two things. I'm going to include these next two tips as one tip because they kind of categorize themselves into the same situation. So this tip 2 section is going to be on pay as you go or having a spending threshold. So for myself, I know I had a hard time pertaining to spending money and having credit cards and not saying, okay, I'm going to limit myself on spending here, limit myself on spending there. When I first got my credit cards, so the bank would give me a card for $1,800, and I'd instantly say, time to go spend $1,800. So what I recommend people do is pay as they go. So basically, when you spend your money off of your credit card, immediately go to your checking account and manually transfer the money over to pay it off, and pay as you go. Every time you use your card, pay it off. And if you use this method, you'll never report utilization. You'll always have a payment towards your card, and you'll never have to worry about spending more money than you have. Now, the other half of this tip, having a spending threshold, is very similar, but basically you set a threshold and say, I'm not going to spend more than this amount of money before I make a transfer from my checking account to pay it down. So maybe that threshold might be $100, and you say, if I spend more than $100, then I have to transfer $100 from my checking account. Or you might make it a percentage. If I spend 10% or 20% of my card, then I'm going to in turn take the money out of my checking account and pay it off. So it's very beneficial to have this spending threshold or this pay as you go mentality, because it keeps your card from getting a high utilization and it keeps you from getting in trouble with your creditors. Now we're kind of transitioning into more of the early stage entrepreneur or someone who's already started to make some of those credit mistakes along their journey, those financial mistakes. And you say, okay, well, I've already started to make those mistakes. What can I do to rectify the situation or fix it? So I'm going to recommend that you make the minimum payments on all of your credit cards, and then you choose based upon your mentality, whether you're going to put the remainder of any funds that you have left in a month on your lowest balance card, or B, put it on your highest interest card. Of course, we know if you pay the card with the highest interest first, you're going to pay it down faster, and of course free up more money. However, on the other hand, if you pay the card with a lower balance off first, you may be able to kind of boost your self-esteem on yourself getting out of that hole and start to see yourself turning around your spending habits. So I recommend you look at these two different strategies and see which one feels better for you. Hey, try one month. If it doesn't work, try the other the next month. Now, getting into tip number 4, you can now use your credit to make money. So maybe you haven't completely maxed out your card, but you're over that 30%. Maybe you're at 50%. And you say, hey, what can I do at this point? A lot of, finance gurus are going to tell you, hey, don't spend any more money. I'm going to tell you, if you are sure that you can make a return on investment, go ahead and spend a little bit more money and use that money to pay the card back down. So, for instance, if I know that I can go to an estate sale and I can, purchase products and I can get them maybe at $100, but I can turn around and relist the same product and sell it for $200. Why would I not do that? So I'm going to recommend that if you have, something that you can invest in, a surefire investment, to go ahead and make that investment. Now, of course, don't make large and drastic investments that are going to put you much further in the hole. And of course, if you have a spouse or a partner, consult them first before making any purchases. Now, tip number 5 is going to be to look at balance transfer options. So always go and check and see if there's any other bank that's offering a credit card with 0% balance transfer or 1% balance transfer. That way you can transfer your balances from a bank with a higher interest rate down to a 0% interest rate, or a 5% interest rate, or whatever it may be for that balance transfer period, and save yourself some money on interest throughout that process. Now, tip number 6 is going to be similar to a balance transfer, and that's going to be getting a consolidation loan. Now, when you get a consolidation loan, you essentially take all of your debts from different places. So maybe you have 2 or 3 cards. You take those debts, you get a personal loan or a consolidation loan that has a lower interest rate, and you merge them all into one particular loan. Now, tip number 7. This one you actually can use as a rookie, but I'd always like to recommend this to those who've already made some credit mistakes, and especially if you have multiple accounts. Go ahead and cut up your card or sock drawer your card per your personality. So if you're someone who you can just take your card and you can put it in a drawer and not use it until you pay it down, then handle the situation that way. If you're someone who that even if it's in that drawer, you're going to come back to the house and get it out of the drawer and go and start spending again, then you need to cut your card up. Cut that card up and pay it back down, and reward yourself once it's paid off, and go ahead and allow yourself to, reorder your card, get it reissued, and then be able to actually use the card. Of course, you can lock the card. You can put it in a drawer. You can have a family member hold it. There's so many other options that you can do. Cutting it up is kind of my way of just saying, get rid of it. I'm not saying necessarily you have to literally cut your card, but I want you to understand that you want to get your card out of your immediate usage. Now, tip number 8 is going to be get this is where we're getting into really you've already messed up and you're in way too deep. What can I do now? Call the bank. This is where it's time to negotiate. Tip number 8. And these next couple tips are going to all fall in this negotiation category, but I want to specifically say call your bank and negotiate. And you need to do that because if you've already messed up, you've already swiped your card up and you're having a hard time paying it back down, or it's feeling like it's impossible paying it back down, you need the bank on your side throughout this process, and that way you're not going to get any negative dings on your report, or you can at least minimize those negative dings as you move through the process. So now what am I recommending here? Number 9 is going to be to ask for a interest rate reduction. So you can always call the bank and say, hey, I'm having trouble paying my card. Is there any way that you can drop my interest rate down so that I can make higher payments towards the principal and I can pay you off faster? Some banks will do it, some banks won't do it. Um, but it's something that you can always take and use to build yourself. Navy Federal is really good. If you call their department that handles, financial problems, they'll give you financial counseling and all these things. And they'll start discussing what options are available to you. Of course, another option is to get a hardship program. So you can call the bank, call up Navy Fed, say, hey, I'm really struggling right now. Maybe I lost my job. Maybe this happened, that happened, whatever. I need to lower my payments. And they might say, hey, well, what can you afford? And typically, if you say, hey, I can afford, $25 a month on this card, $50 a month on this card, $50 a month on this card, they'll typically adjust those payments and say, hey, go ahead and for the next, 6 months, you pay us this amount that you can afford to pay us. And we're going to allow you to do that so that you can get back on your feet, and then you can pay us what you would traditionally pay us or more once you get back on your feet. They're really good about doing that. So please make sure if you are having problems with Navy Federal that you call and reach out and do that and talk to them about their hardship programs. And last but not least, my last recommendation, which would be number 10 now, is if all else fails and your account does go into collections, you're not able to keep it afloat without catching a negative ding, then still see if there's a way that you can call the bank and work out some form of settlement where you can pay them a lesser amount and see if they can do that without it dinging your credit. Maybe you can say, hey, can I pay such and such amount of money, settle out this debt, and you remove the late payments, or you, or we don't report any late payments to my credit report. So with that being said, as always, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for being a part of the family. And of course, we will see you in the next video.